you. And if you're currently smoking, what's your favorite way to partake, and maybe strains you kind of like to fuck with,
So I am TheSprouticus. You can find me at twitch.tv/TheSprouticus and twitter.com/TheSprouticus, and hopefully soon TikTok.com/TheSprouticus. Yeah, I'm a political commentator. My views have been wild card is what I like to call them recently. But yeah, that's me. Currently I'm smoking nicotine. I can't smoke weed at the current moment in time. So waiting for that. But yeah, so looking forward to this. I do enjoy smoking weed. Typically I smoke weed out of a vape. But I've done it via I forget what you call it. It's like a Coke bottle, and you melt the cap, cut the bottom off, and then put like a nut into the cap, and then stick it in there, light it, and then take the cap off, and then push it down in the water. I forget what that's called. Gravity bong.
Gravity bong.
My chat's got me. So I've done gravity bongs before. I've done a whole bunch of stuff. Typically, vape has been the easiest and most the laziest way to smoke it. So that's what I've been doing.
Rock and roll, yeah. Those gravity bongs are something else. We used to have one when I was a kid, and when I was a kid, that sounds so horrible. Like, hey, Dad, bust out the gravity bong. It'll be great. No, my dad hated that I smoked weed. Fucking hated it. But I had a Coleman water cooler, and the water cooler was like just over 2 liters. So you could take a 2-liter bottle, cut off the bottom, and if you put the 2-liter bottle in, like fill it up with water and put the 2-liter bottle in there, it would make a seal around the inside of the fucking around the inside of the water cooler. So like when you went to pull that thing up, like it was suctioning so much the bottom of the bottle would start to fold in a little bit, and it would just be like, it would go from milky white to straight yellow because it was just pulling in so much smoke. Like, it would be gnarly.
If it helps, my wife's favorite way to smoke weed is gummies.
Gummies are awesome.
Not smoke. Her favorite way to get weed is gummies. So it frustrates me because she'll like last night I was streaming, and like she ate like an entire gummy, which is too much for her. And she's on her desk is like to my right in the opposite side of the room, and she was on that side of the room like while I'm streaming with like a toilet paper roll, just staring at me while mouthing like help. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, it's time for you to go to bed.
Right. Get some sleep. You're done. Pack it up.
You're done. You're done. Pack your stuff and leave.
So like what was like the thing that like what intrigued you like when you first like started getting into like weed and stuff or whatever? What was like I mean, I know there's a lot of people who be like, oh, I was a kid, I was being rebellious, but was there something specific that was like, damn, you know what, that just looks like pretty fucking tight, like I think I'm gonna do that?
I used to not like it at all. Before I smoked, I used to not like it at all. I used to think that like smoking weed was bad and all that kind of stuff. I definitely think you can abuse it to a certain point. But I think that I wanted to know what it was like. I had a position on it, but I've never done it. I've never known what it was like. Now again, I'm not gonna use the crack or heroin or anything like that to where like take it and figure out what it's like to have a position on it. But marijuana to me seemed at that point in time medically, I don't want to say harmless, but low harm, less harmful than alcohol, and I drink alcohol, so I'm like, I'll try it and I'll figure out like what exactly this is. So I did it, figured out what exactly it was. I'm like, hey, this is nothing. Like, and so it changed my complete view on like what I thought about marijuana. So
that's pretty interesting. So yeah, you said that before you had kind of a like a sharp view on it, or like maybe a not so favorable view. Now, I started really young, so like I think my not so favorable view went away shortly after the dare classes. But like
I saw it as like the gateway drug, right?
Right. Yeah.
I saw it as like, this is what gets you into crack and marijuana. I'm like, no one starts just smoking crack because one day they just crack just showed up at their front door. I'm like, that doesn't happen. And so I just saw marijuana as like the gateway to this. And so like that's the way I saw it. And then once I smoked, I'm like, this isn't a gateway. This is just like it's just like your drink. It's just like you're drinking alcohol. It takes the edge off.
Yeah. I mean, the
yeah,
only thing it's been a gateway for me to is the damn refrigerator and an extra 20 pounds, you know.
Hey, listen, at this point in time, I was 156 pounds and 6'1". Or no, sorry, I was 138 pounds and 6'1" at this point in time.
Oh boy.
So I could afford a few pounds there.
Hey, it worked out then, you know, got to put on a little bit of weight. See, it was actually acting in its medicinal purpose in that space, you know.
It was, yeah, and there's a lot of like medicinal reasons you could do it too. Like, I don't want to say it helps with ADHD because when you're high on THC, it doesn't necessarily help with the like inattentiveness of ADHD. But it does take off like that idea of masking. So people who have ADHD, like they mask. So we try to mask as if we're better than how we actually feel. Right. Because consistently in school we're told try harder, do better. Why can't you just do this? And so eventually we just mask. We're just like, hey, yeah, I'm trying. Like I'm trying really hard and like almost like masking our success, right? So when we have success, it's one of those things where it's like we have to like hold on to it because that's very precious to us. And that's what we use to mask is like the small versions of success that we don't even see ourselves worthy as. We're like, no, this person helped me do this, so I'm not even really worthy of what I got. No, but it helps take that edge off of masking. And so does ADHD meds. So if anyone here has ADHD, definitely get ADHD. Well, I don't want to say definitely get ADHD meds. Definitely talk to your doctor and see what's best for you. And if your doctor recommends ADHD meds, don't fall for the stigma that it's bad to take meds. It's a tool, just like anything else. It's a tool. Just like if you broke your arm and like had some muscle tears and stuff like that pretty bad, that you're gonna go through physical therapy. Physical therapy is a tool. And it's just like that. So you're trying to get yourself better, get yourself into a more comfortable spot, and that's exactly what that is.
Agreed. So like I'll kind of give you a little bit of detail about why I have come to be like such a huge proponent of weed. It's not merely the fact, because I started smoking when I was in high school, you know. I did the same thing a lot of kids in my age group were doing, you know. It was just kind of like that thing you're going to go out and try, you know, and fucking whatever. And so I did it, and, you know, I ended up really liking it. I used it, you know, pretty much consistently all the way through up into now my adulthood. But there was a point where I got run over by a car and damaged some of the discs in my lower back, damaged one of the vertebrae in my neck. And I was going through physical therapy, and I was really trying to do everything I could to stay off the pain meds. And well, I should back up first. So right after it happened, I got put on pain meds. I got put on some opioids. I think it was OxyContin. I've never been anybody that's ever had any kind of suicidal ideation in my life. Ever. Nothing. Always had a will to live. Either for fear of the pain of what would happen if I tried to like take myself out, or for the sheer will of like, no, fuck that. Fuck everybody. I'm gonna fucking do this shit. I don't care how bad shit gets. But when I went on those opioids, I started having suicidal ideation. I fucking was breaking out in rashes all over my skin, like, and I felt fucking horrible, and like I couldn't function, you know. So I fell back on what I had known that worked before, which was weed, you know. And I started using that and like going to physical therapy, and like I was working really hard in physical therapy again. Like I was saying, I was trying to stay off the opioids or whatever because I had already seen what, you know, how bad they were for me. But one day the doctor told me, he's like, I don't think you're going to get any better than this. We just need to put you in pain management. And I said, nope, I want a referral for a medical cannabis card. I'm not going on opioids. I've seen too many. I've had friends die, you know, from overdoses of opioids. who got
Right.
hooked because their doctors got them on it and shit like that. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to chance it. No fucking, no how, no way. It's out for me, you know?
Right.
So they did. They got me the recommendation for my medical cannabis card, and now, and well, since that time, through a lot of exercise, I have to do physical therapy pretty consistently, and like moderate medication, you know, through cannabis, like I'm able to regulate the pain and the issues that I have, including stiffness and shit like that. So it's not a cure-all, but it was like, for me at that point, is like I had to make a choice as to whether or not I was going to be an addict, you know, and a whore to the pharmaceutical industry, or whether I was going to be somebody who smoked some weed and worked out a little bit more, you know, and I opted for the latter, you know.
Right. But it's weird. I mean, we were talking about suicidal ideation. I never really had suicidal ideation. Um, but as a kid, I blacked out and I tried. So like I know it's weird. Blacking out is a very weird experience. If you've never had it happen to you before, I hope it never happens to you. But it's a point in time where you become so like emotionally irate, whether that's upset, mad, just emotionally irate, that you are in such a desperate position that your body blacks out whatever happened. Your brain blacks out. You know, it's almost like it. Think of like a CD, right? And think like your CDs, like your entire life. It puts like a strip of tape over like that certain amount of time, because your brain is like, no, you don't need to remember that. That's just going to be more harmful for you in the long run.
Yeah.
If you remember this time frame of your life. So like it's really weird the way the body works, and the more you learn about it, the more you realize that like going to see a therapist, going to get a psychiatrist, you're not crazy. Like it'd probably be recommended for anyone to go see a therapist, to go see a psychiatrist, because there's probably something they don't realize they're dealing with, that once they figure it out, their life will be so much better. So it's I don't know. I'm a huge advocate for mental health right now, and making sure that people are like, not making sure people are getting mental health issues is fixed, but like making sure they don't feel bad about it, right? I just making sure they don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And people shouldn't feel bad about seeking mental health treatment, or really any treatment. We were talking a little bit about this before, and that there is an issue where it's men are kind of stigmatized when they reach out for help with their mental health issues, you know, and it tends to be a little bit harder for a lot of men to like go and get the help they need because of how society has kind of fucking treated the situation, you know. You're expected to be stronger. You're expected to, you know, don't cry. You know, don't be a pussy. You're gonna fucking cry. You know, shit like that. And I think that's taken its toll on men in general. You know, so.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Sorry, go ahead. I was
No,
agreeing with you.
I was just gonna say, you know, like that's why it's so important. Like even with some of the stuff that you and I have talked about, that you know, there are people out there that are making it. Trying to make it okay, you know, trying to destigmatize that, you know, for men, you know, it's okay, you know, like we all go through some shit, man. Nobody should be fucking stuck dealing with that bullshit. So
I've told people this, and I've always felt this way. Is that if you are thinking some sort of way, I'd much rather you DM me on Twitter, or I probably won't get DMs on Twitch. DMs on Twitter are pretty. They come to my phone, so I'm gonna see a DM on Twitter before I'm gonna see a DM on Twitch. But like, if you're feeling a certain way, DM me on Twitter. I'd rather like DM you, or DM me on Discord. That's even better. DM me on Discord. Those pop on my phone instantaneously. But if you're feeling a certain what type of way, like I'd rather DM you for hours and be on a phone call with you for hours and be like dead tired the next day for work, than like wake up the next day and understand and realize that you've done something that you can't ever take back. And so like it just comes down to that. I've had too many friends that have unfortunately done things they can't take back. And it affects more people than just it affects the entirety of your community when you do something like that. And I just want people to know that they have someone to reach out to. Like, if you think you don't have someone to reach out to me. Even if you don't know who the fuck I am, this is the first time you're seeing me. I'm TheSprouticus. You can find me on Twitter. Reach out to me. If you've got nobody else, reach out to me. And I would rather DM you for hours than for you to do something stupid. And I don't know. It's just been a huge point in my life recently to where it's like this is a huge problem in America, and it's not getting enough attention.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And likewise with me, and I've extended the same thing on my streams prior. But like, yeah, people are going through that shit. Like, definitely, I'm available. I've had some people reach out to me when they're going through some shit, and you know, I lent an ear, you know, and I keep that confidence, you know. I never would talk about that with anybody, but if anybody, yeah, same way. If you need an ear, if you need something, you know, fucking reach out. Like
I've got my own people that I reach out to.
Yeah.
I mean, you being one of them. Like, so you have to find your support group and people that are going to be there for you. People that are going to people that are going to take care of you. They're actually going to care. Versus other things. Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn my fan on because it is getting extremely hot in my room. So 1 second. Sorry.
Go right ahead.
All right, I'm back.
Cool. Yeah, so but yeah, that was to the point of like, you know, like I can't do opiates. I can't take opioids because of that, because that is the result, you know, and like I'd prefer not to feel that way, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's not do that, you know. If I can smoke a little weed and I don't have to feel like that, I'm good.
Right.
But
exactly.
But yeah, so that's kind of like how I came to being like going from being just somebody that was like, I love to smoke weed and they should legalize it, you know, because I want to smoke weed, to being like, oh wow, there's a real medical benefit for it, and I'm actually seeing it and being able to feel it and experience that myself for those reasons, you know. Of course, the question always comes up, you know, and I think this is with a lot of people who, you know, find something to self-medicate with, right? Why did I self-medicate in the first place? And it's because I was dealing with other trauma. You know, like the whole reason I sought out this self-medicating was because I was dealing with trauma, and there wasn't another way that at my disposal in order to deal with that shit. You know,
like, why did I start smoking nicotine? I was dealing with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I drink as a kid? I was dealing with trauma. A lot of ways that people self-medicate is either because of a mental disorder or it's because of trauma, in which trauma in and of itself can become a mental disorder.
Oh yeah.
I hate the stigma behind like mental disorder. I say it and it just sounds disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Basically non-normative brains, right? So if your brain doesn't work the way society thinks it should, you can end up self-medicating to try and meet society's expectations. I talk about ADHD a lot because I have ADHD. It's something that I can like come with experience in, right? I don't want to talk about like severe anxiety because I don't have severe anxiety. I don't want to talk about like schizophrenia because I don't have schizophrenia. Those are things that I don't have experience in, and I would love to talk to someone who has those things to try and figure out like more, and like if they're willing to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But with ADHD, you do self-medicate. You do like try to do whatever you can to try and meet society's expectations. Society's expectations are going to be a huge factor in your life, and you're going to try to do whatever you can to meet those. And so when it comes to that, it's really just it just really comes down to that. You're just trying to meet society's expectations, and it's hard for you because your brain doesn't work the way society wants it to.
Right, yeah, and you're having to, and it's number one, the pressure of already dealing, you know, and trying to relate, and then And then on top of that, there's that additional pressure of, okay, now I'm already trying to deal in this society, but I've got to be super normal the way everybody else is. Otherwise I don't fit. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So it's twofold, because it's both what you internally go through and then and then trying to meet like the perception that you want people to have of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
right.
you're already at a place where like you're having to like adjust. Like, I'm going to use something that's very basic that, you know, just for analogy's sake. So like, I'm left-handed, right? Like, left-handed people have to learn how to work in a right-handed person's world. Most of the things, the implements that we utilize are right-handed, right? Now, learning how to do that and having to deal with not being able to get tools or instruments or implements that you need that actually work the same for left-handed people is very frustrating. But nobody's going to look at me because I'm left-handed having trouble using a right-handed tool and say, what the fuck, dumbass, go figure it the fuck out. You know, it's like, well, I'm left-handed, you know, you guys don't make tools.
I mean, I feel you there because I'm a left-handed shooter, and they don't make firearms are really not made left-handed unless you want to pay out the ass. And typically the left-handed firearms have more issues. So no, I 100% get where you're coming from with like the left-handed thing.
Yeah, and then so like you don't get stigmatized for being left-handed directly. I mean, I did in elementary school. They tried to make me right-handed and fucking slapped my hand with the ruler, tied my hand behind my back, and tried. It didn't work, but it was more the fact of like as I got older, I was in a situation. I was never in a situation quite where people who suffer with mental health issues of, oh well, he looks or acts weird, you know, like he doesn't fit the norm, you know, and like having that kind of thing go on, you know, like, and it was, and that's my point. It was frustrating enough for me with being a left-hander. I can't imagine like your psyche being in a state where like you're already trying to figure out the world around you and how to function in it, and then you've got the stigma built in on top of that people try to like put on you with that. You know what I mean?
And then it's not visible either.
Yeah.
I grew up in like, I don't like to say this, but I'm someone that like people would consider double extraordinary. So I got good grades. I ended 3.5, 3.4 in high school. Like I got good grades. Grades wasn't really an issue for me.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I was struggling with ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like extraordinary on both sides of the scale. And so it comes down to the point to where it's like when you are that, like my dad like consistently told me, like if you just put in a little bit of effort, you would have a 4.0 or higher. If you just put in a little bit of effort, then you would have a scholarship to college. You wouldn't have to pay a single thing. You would have an academic scholarship to college. And like I think it's that part as a kid that killed me, because it was like I am trying. You don't see that I'm trying, but I am trying. Like, and I hate the fact that kids go through that, and like I'm glad ADHD is more recognized now, but I hate the fact that like kids go through that, like I'm fucking trying. And like if you just try a little harder, I'm like I don't know how much harder I can try.
Right, you're doing the best you can, and you're dealing with like this learning deficit at the same time, trying to get through that, you know.
And the bad part about it was like he's like, just focus. And it was like, and I'm like, I can't focus. Like I cannot focus. And then he's like, well, I've seen you like read a book while someone in front of you is jumping rope. And so like, it's the difference between like the hyper focus and the non-focus that a lot of people don't get with ADHD. It's like, because they'll say like, oh, you can focus when you choose to. You can focus when you want to. Just focus now. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it's like, no, I would love to focus right now, but you know what? My brain is telling me I need to go fucking do a million things at once, and that shit's not going to happen, you know? Sorry. Yeah, and I do think, like, I'm glad for how far we've come in a lot of this, because we are finally getting to a place where, listen, there's two people right now who otherwise would probably look like your normal fucking meathead looking motherfucker on the street, you know, talking about shit about the importance of addressing mental health, you know, as men, and like that's not something that I think I saw a lot of when I was growing up. You know, like that was never something that was prominently addressed anywhere. So at least society is making some moves insofar as, you know, there's people like you and I, you know, they're talking about, and I know there's more than us, you know. So hopefully that continues to grow out. You know, we continue to see more people coming out, especially people, the higher profile, the better, you know, because that's going to make it easier for other people. And hopefully that takes us somewhere.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna take us somewhere. There's just part of society, the parts of society, like almost like subsegments of society that just make it worse though. So for example, the military.
Right.
If you try to get like yourself mentally taken care of while you're serving, you're risking giving up your job. You're risking not being able to sign that next contract.
Right.
You're risking that if you try to get yourself mental help. And so it's not like there's people in the military that don't want the mental health, that don't want to. I mean, it eventually becomes that, but it doesn't start as that. It starts as I want the mental health, but I can't do it. This is my job. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And then when you're forced to like give up your job or get mental help, you're like, I can't afford to give up my job. I can't afford to leave the family that I've made in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would just put me in an even worse spot, right? Like, not only am I having to go through therapy and do all of this, but now my entire support system I'm leaving behind because I can no longer maintain my position in the military. While it's still like I understand why the military does it though, because they don't want people who are mentally ill to they don't want it to affect the battlefield. They don't want it to become a thing in the battlefield to where it's like, oh, okay, well, this person's mentally ill, so they're almost like the weakest link of the chain, right? And so that's their mentality behind it, which I get, because war is a very, very tough spot to be in, and it
Mm-hmm.
will break down even the strongest of minds. And so but at the same time, it also like re-influences the don't go get help idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And it's not just those types of jobs. I mean, really, it could be a lot of jobs, you know, could potentially do that. You could lose your employment. Like, and some of it's not just, you know, as clear cut as, oh, it's because of your mental health issues. It's because, oh, well, you decided to take this much time off on FMLA because you needed to tend to your health care. Well, your FMLA time has run up, and it looks like it's going to take another 6 to 8 weeks for us to get you qualified for further time off that doesn't fall under your FMLA allowance. Oh, you mean you need time off during that time? Well, you've already exhausted all your time. So now we've got a reason to let you go, because guess what? We don't want to deal with you, and you're costing us money. And they do that. I quite literally saw that. I was witness to that happen at one company.
Yeah.
Which is like why I got another reason, like why that specific issue is like really sensitive to me, because I saw them do this to people, you know. Like I saw upper management like letting people go and like looking for ways to get around their FMLA and shit like that so that they could let them go, because, oh, well, they're just dead weight. Well, no, they're not dead weight. They're afforded some rights, and you need to like own up to your responsibility, you know, to maintain those. I mean, it's discrimination, you know.
Right. Well, with every like mental disorder, there's also positives to it, right? So like with ADHD, we are extremely creative.
Mm-hmm.
We come up with off the wall ideas, and sometimes they work.
Right.
And so like we're very imaginative people. Um, and so like that's a bonus to having someone who has ADHD on your team, is
Sure.
that you're gonna get some weird ideas that no one else even thought of. And sometimes sometimes a lot of times it ain't gonna be worth shit. It's just gonna be really funny. Like where the fuck did you come up with that one?
Mm-hmm.
But you know that every once in a while they're gonna come up with that idea, and you'd be like, holy shit, I would have never thought about that.
Get that little stroke of genius in there. Yeah, for
right.
sure.
And like Overlord Clyde said, we fixate like a motherfucker. We fixate like a motherfucker on with ADHD, especially we go into like hyperfocus. The idea that like we lose track of time when we're hyper focusing. Time just no longer exists. And we will spend like either a large amount of time doing something, or we'll be hyper focused for a very short amount of time. But during that time, we get done what people couldn't imagine get done in that time period. People would be like, no, it's impossible to get that done in that time period, but we'd be able to get it done because we're hyper focusing. And my wife would like yell at me when I was hyper focusing when I was in college on like a school project. She'd be like just 5 feet away, like yelling at me. And then like I would, so she'd be like yelling at me, and then like I wouldn't even notice her. Like it wouldn't even hit my brain that she was anywhere near me. And she had to like grab my shoulder for me to like come out of hyper focus and understand that she was trying to talk to me.
Yeah, I feel that. And I have not diagnosed as ADD or ADHD, but I was told by several teachers all throughout my schooling. My parents were told several times over that he needs to be on ADHD medication, ADD medication. My dad was like, nah, not fucking happening. Not putting my kid on he's not going on any psych drugs. So like I ended up having to just kind of suffer through it and figure it out. And I still haven't been tested, but when I talk to other people or when I talk to people with ADD and ADHD and they talk to me about what they go through, I'm like, I spend a lot of time going through that shit. I'm like, I maybe, you know?
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's possible.
I'm also big on not self-diagnosing because I don't want to trivialize people that really have those issues, and so. But I have thought in recent years that I should probably go just get tested and find out. Maybe it'll help give me some insight if nothing else.
But I've gone like today. I'm actually proud of myself. I was scared to do it for the longest amount of time because I saw like a therapist as something for the weak. Right, like I'm not. I don't need a fucking therapist. I got this. Like it's not. A therapist is for people that can't figure it out. I can figure it out. I just need to sit down and think about it. But like, I had my first like meeting with a therapist. And yeah, like that was amazing to me. Like the first meeting with my therapist was amazing because I'm able to say what I need to say without judgment of like the person like judging me back. Because especially when I talk about my child abuse, I've had people tell me this, that when I first told them how I was abused as a child, they thought I was overplaying it. They thought I was overreacting. They thought like, oh, dads and kids, they just butt heads all the time and you're just overreacting. And it's really not that bad. Until they decide, until they like go to my house for long enough to where like they start to see it and they're like, oh shit,
yeah,
you weren't overreacting, were you? Like, and then even my wife apologized to me because when we first started dating, she thought I was overreacting, and just recently she apologized to me like, hey, I'm sorry, I know I didn't tell you and I know you didn't know, but I thought you were overreacting when you first started telling me about it, and I'm sorry, like you obviously weren't. And so it comes down to that, to where it's when you're able to like say stuff like that and not have the therapist be like, you're overreacting, like this is a nothing burger, that it's something different, because it's like you can actually like let it off your chest without even like the worry that they might like try to combat it.
Yeah. And that is a good thing. Like I have been in the past, I've been to therapists before, but not for like testing for that kind of stuff, for other stuff. But yeah, I think therapy is good. I think That's another thing. People shouldn't shy away from going to therapy. Therapy is excellent. It's not just about doing meds or whatever, you know. If you need it, take it, use it. You know, it's something you have at your disposal. Like you said, it's a tool, just like meds are, you know.
And if you think you don't need it, you're the one that needs it the most.
Yeah.
If you think like, I don't need help, you need help. All right.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the thing, is like, people got to stop fucking treating it like there's something wrong with this shit. Like, come on, man, you know? Like, no, you know what? We'd rather whether you walk around suffering in silence and, you know, end up being one of those people that ends up shooting up a school or something, you know, because that's going to be better than you dealing with the issues, you know, just saying, you know.
Right. And it seems to be that, like, at least for me, like, I am the biggest critic of myself.
Mm-hmm.
No, of the people that are harshest to me on Twitch, I'm harsher to myself. And like I said, I've written poetry about this shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I write poetry when, like, I'm overflowing with emotion, and I put it down on a page. And that helped me immensely. Without going to see a therapist, that helped me immensely because I was able to get it out. Whereas if you're not able to get it out, you just wrestle with it like the entire time.
Yeah.
And but no, if you're able to get it out, whatever it is, it may not be poetry for you. It may be like, you know, going to like an MMA and fighting it out, like using physical exertion, which I did as well. I used physical exertion as a kid to get just the raw emotion out of my body.
Yeah.
I would go on like a 5 mile run, and like people are like, you don't run. I'm like, yeah, but I was pissed off.
Yeah.
So
No,
like,
you know what? That's a real thing, because I had a therapist tell me one time when I was going through some of that shit. He said, just go and run and run. He's like, go run hills. Just run until your fucking legs wear out and you can't run anymore. He's like, it's the best thing you can do when you're feeling that down, when you're feeling that frustrated or upset, you know?
Right.
And yeah, you're speaking to that. It's a very therapeutic, you know, avenue to take, you know, when you need to get some relief.
And yeah, and I promise, if you think like, if you're feeling like this overload of emotion, you think like, I'm not gonna go for a run because going for a run is gonna hurt. I don't run very often, etc. and so on. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna make my like stomach hurt, or it's gonna hurt my chest. It's gonna make me feel like I can't breathe. Unless it's an actual medical thing, which again, if it's an actual medical thing, I don't suggest you go for a run. But if you are physically capable of running, you won't feel it. If you are that pissed off, you will not feel the run whatsoever. You are just gonna keep fucking running. And you know what? Once you start to feel it, that's when you know you're about done. Once you start to feel it, you're like, okay, so the emotion's left, and
Yep.
you can start walking, all right, but not until you start to feel it.
True. Yeah, no, that's very true. I know exactly what you're talking about, because yeah, but once the pain hits you, the pain's distracting from the other shit.
The pain's almost a relief.
Yeah,
The pain's almost
exactly.
a relief. It's like, okay, something different. And it's just like, okay, relax, it's gone, let's move forward, kind of.
Yeah, better to feel the physical than the anguish of what I was going through, you know. Yeah, for sure.
Especially when you feel like silenced, which is why I feel bad for a lot of kids like that go through abuse, is because you feel silenced. You feel there's no one to turn to, and so it's all just stuck inside. And so I understand people that cut too, because like when people cut, it's because that physical pain is something different than like the numbness of feeling silenced and going through it at the same time. Is just numbing, and that physical pain is like almost a relief from the numbness that you experience day to day.
Yeah, I feel that. I definitely feel that. Yeah, and I also found that doing martial arts and even music, like music did that for me, being a vocalist, like, legit going in and being in a metal band and just walking in the room and fucking screaming your fucking lungs out, you know, for fucking 2-3 hours straight. Like, it sounds so crazy, but it feels so fucking good. It's so cathartic, you know, and there are like so many visceral moments in it, and it's like, and then you stop and, you know, you go outside and you smoke a joint and fucking, you're like, God, that was great. That was fucking awesome. And then you go and get your favorite munchie, which is
My favorite munchie?
Yeah.
So I like spicy shit. So like my favorite munchie is like wings and like fries. Like wings and fries, love it.
Nice. I was just eating wings tonight, as a matter of fact. Fucking love them. It's like one of my favorite
I don't know if
foods.
you consider it munchie. I guess that's more of a meal. I don't know what you consider munchies. Is it just like snacks or
Wings can be a
would
snack,
you?
sure. Wings can absolutely be a snack, but yeah, a snack, you know.
Okay. You know what? My favorite munchie is that no longer exists because it was discontinued because it was a limited time only. Was the fucking poppin' jalapeno Doritos. I fucking love those shits.
I
All right,
remember those. I did get some of
and
those.
I was so pissed when I went to the store and they weren't there. I'm like, where are they? And the person at the store was like, oh yeah, that was limited edition. They're gone. I'm like,
You're like,
they're. I'm
no.
sorry. Come again? They're gone. Do you know any store around that still has them? Because I need to go pick up like 10.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like, oh, I hate it when they do those fucking limited edition shit, and it's something you really, really like. Like they had these things. I don't think they make them anymore. I haven't seen them around. But I used to get these pretzel M&Ms, and they were so fucking good. Like instead of having like a nut in the middle of them, it had like a pretzel in the middle, and it was just, huh. I could eat fistfuls of those things. Like it was like just give me the whole bag and just like, you know, like I'm just fucking drinking this shit at this point. I don't even fucking care, dude. They're so good.
I used to be like lactose intolerant, so like chocolate's not really my thing.
Oh
Um, uh,
yeah, I could see that causing
but
issues for
like
sure.
I'll eat chocolate with other things, but I don't like chocolate in and of by itself.
Hmm.
Um, but like I've gotten over my lactose intolerance. I've grown out of it. Sometimes people do that. Sometimes they grow out of being lactose intolerant, which I did. But to the same point, I can't drink a glass of milk because my brain will immediately, um, the brain will like immediately like be like, oh, you shouldn't be drinking that, and it'll give like a pseudo reaction.
Hmm.
But at the same time, like it doesn't react to me if I eat like cheese, ice cream, chocolate, or anything like that. It's just literally the glass of milk. But I was always a fan of like Skittles or like the sweet tarts or like the oh man, the shockers.
Shockers are
As a
fucking
kid, the
awesome.
shockers.
Yes, yes. I used to
Oh
like
man,
those things
I
too.
love those.
Yeah, I we used to do these things like I don't know like if you guys like used to like mix up your fountain drinks or whatever, but we call it the Cottonmouth Cure, and it was a drink that we'd make where it was like I think like 75% like pink lemonade and then like 25% like 7 Up or Sprite to give it the
Yeah.
bubbles, and it was just like the bombest ass Cottonmouth Cure whenever you get that like, you know, when you feel like you're chewing on sand because you've been smoking so much, like it's so good. It's so
Oh,
good.
and Warheads. Warheads, yeah.
Ooh, warheads are good. Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, I do love some warheads. But
Me and my
yeah,
buddy, me and my
okay.
buddy used to make a so we called them hobo meals.
Hmm.
So what we would do is like we'd save leftovers from a couple meals that we'd have like on binges of like playing video games or whatever. And then we would just throw all of our like leftovers into a bowl and like mash it up to where it's like edible. And then we'd just like twirl it in, mix it all up, and then we would like microwave it. And they were fairly good. You just take like all your leftovers in just one bowl and just start crushing it. But it was good.
That's
It was good. But
awesome.
we called them hobo meals.
Yeah, I mean, we had we didn't quite do that, but I do remember like when I was living with like some friends and shit, we did do we only ate ramen for the most part, ramen and hot dogs. Like I pretty much lived off that shit for 2 years, and we did
Yeah.
get pretty creative with the ramen though. Like we would put like I would like not use a little packet and like pour a bunch of cheese in there and turn it into like ramen and cheese and do all sorts of weird shit with it. Because I was like, dude, ramen sucks. I'm so tired of this shit, but I can't eat anything else.
Oh my goodness, gobstoppers. Yeah, gobstoppers. Those are
Vienna
fucking good.
sausages? Oh, I used to love those with saltine crackers. My grandma got me eating those, as a matter of fact.
I tell you what, you ever had deer jerky?
Yes, deer jerky is good. I like that. Venison is good too, for that matter. Venison is fucking amazing.
That's why I'm hunting this year. So I'm going hunting for first time I'm going hunting with archery. I've gone hunting before, but I'm hunting archery this season, so that's the first time. So like, yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. I've got my bow all set up. Which like you said, frustrating thing is, so I'm cross dominant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm dominant on my right eye. My right eye is my dominant eye, but my left eye is my dominant eye. My right hand is my dominant hand. But I've had to learn how to shoot rifles left-handed because my left eye is my dominant eye.
Gotcha.
But with arrows, it's the exact opposite. I had to learn how to shoot with my non-dominant eye. Because it's so hard to find left-handed arrows.
Mm-hmm.
That it's ridiculous. So like, yeah, so I'm having to I'm almost forcing myself to be ambidextrous at this point when it comes to firearms.
Well, hey, and there might be some advantage to that too, you know. If you ever find yourself injured in a zombie apocalypse or something, you know.
Left-handed bows. I'm sorry, did I say left-handed arrows? Left-handed bows. They don't make left-handed bows. Arrows are left and right-handed. It doesn't matter. It just what you shoot it with, I guess. But yeah, so left-handed bows is what I meant.
That's gonna make me go into an archery shop and just be like, "Yo, you got any left-handed arrows in here?"
got any arrows that fit my left-handed bow?
No. See, these all look like right-handed arrows. Where I'm looking for the left-handed arrows. Can we find those?
This one just feels better in my right hand. I need one that feels better in my left hand.
Yeah, can we do that? Can you make that happen? I mean, I don't mind if you have to special order it or whatever. That's fine. That's fine. We can do that.
Oh, but no, yeah, it's actually I think that no, I don't know. The fletching on a left-handed bow might be different for an arrow. I'm not quite sure. But I do know you can change your fletching for the way you shoot. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's a handed thing as well, to where they change the fletching for the hand as well. But yeah. Left-handed golf balls, what?
Let's go. Left-handed golf balls. I love it. You'll love to see it.
My ex was pissed because he told me to just let go, and I did, right into a rock.
Whoops.
That arrow was destroyed. Oh, shit.
Yeah. No, we were bad kids. Like, we had bow and arrows when we were real little, and we would shoot them off our roof at shit. Like, we were fucking horrible, man. Like, I'm surprised nobody got hurt, because we, no parental supervision. We had the bullets. We just went out there and fucking did it, dude. We didn't fucking care.
I was shooting at my buddy's house when I first started shooting arrows, and I just got new arrows. They were full. I still, the arrows that I shoot, they're full metal jackets. So they're metal arrows. They're metal jacketed arrows. And I was aiming for the target, but it was like when I was still learning how to shoot a bow, and I pulled the bow and just nailed the hell out of his grill. So I've now got an arrow that I'm gonna keep forever. It's called the Grill Killer.
Sorry, nice. Keeping in the spirit of that StonerCast there real quick.
All right. Hey, you keep doing it because I can't right now, so.
But so I know that you kind of gone through all sorts of bullshit in recent months on the Twitchosphere, but it sounds like you're coming to a place where you got some things coming up that you want to work on and other things that you're looking at doing.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk a little bit about what you might want to be looking forward to as far as the future of the StonerCast channel?
Are you wanting to do it?
I mean,
Can I make the announcement?
Well, yeah, I'm open to doing it. I told you I'd work on it with you for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you said work on it with me, so I didn't know if that was like a we'll work on it and see if we can do it or not. But
No, we'll make it happen.
So, I'm gonna start a podcast with Jason Society over here as my co-host, and I'll be his co-host. There's not really just gonna be a main host. We're just gonna co-host the thing. But it's gonna be called Man Up. And where we're going to talk about issues that men are dealing with, like mental issues that men are dealing with, or societal issues that men are dealing with, and we'll discuss these things, and we'll have on guests, and where we'll interview guests that have been very prominent in men's health, and we're just going to keep trying to make this more public, get more eyes on men's health, until it's got the publicity it needs to be able to be taken care of, because right now there's just not the publicity. Right now the idea that someone's considered a men's rights activist is considered cringe. And so it needs publicity, it needs understanding, and I feel like a podcast would be good to do that. So I came up with the idea, and I invited Jason on, and Jason just so graciously accepted my invite. So we'll start this up, and I've already got a guest on the line who is a viewer of mine that wants to join on and talk about it as well. So it maybe the first couple times we won't have like known guests, but hopefully we'll have like known guests at some point in time, as we get further through the podcast, and hopefully we will be able to make a change. That's what it's all about, right? Is making like a societal change to where I call it Man Up, because almost as like I forget what it's called, like where it's not really what it means. What's that called?
You're reappropriating it.
Yeah, so like I'm reappropriating Man Up, right? So it basically, Man Up is like it's a term basically telling guys like, hey, get the fuck over it, man up. And so I'm gonna reappropriate it and be like, man up, go see a mental health doctor, man up, and go take care of yourself. You know what I mean? And so like that's what I'm looking forward to. I also believe that I'm restarting after Maddie gets married and comes back from her honeymoon. That I'm restarting the War Room with Maddie Cakes.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just gonna keep being that wild card. The guy on Twitch that nobody knows what he's gonna say next. So it's fun being in this position because people can't really prepare for you very well. They have to kind of like just wait and see till they debate. Yeah. They're like, oh shit.
True. And that's a good thing though, right? I mean, that means that your opinions are a little more nuanced. You're not just like following a narrative or following dialogue trees. You're thinking for yourself about what these issues are, and where you stand on those. And I think that's admirable. I think there's so many people that want to fit a purity test, and I think the problem with that is we live in a much more nuanced world than that, and I think you're doing some good shit with showing how you can be a nuanced person and have a diverse range of opinions that may go from somewhat conservative to moderately liberal, and there's nothing wrong with that. Still be a good
streamer and still have a platform. Like you don't have to just go with the talking points to have a platform. And if anyone is a walking living proof of that, it's me and Counterpoints. You don't have to be like you don't have to be just a talking points mouth to be able to have a platform and to be able to stream. You can stream and be genuine at the same time. Is there times on panels where I'll say something a little bit harsher than I believe just to stoke the fire a little bit? Yes, I'll still stoke the fire because I like content. And my viewers like content. But when it comes down to like one-on-one discussions, you'll see more truly like what I believe when it comes down to like, okay, so I'm not stoking fires and I'm not trying to provide the content. This is just like an informational discussion. It's a lot easier to understand like where someone's at within those contexts versus like within a panel.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can break down kind of where everyone's at. Like, we've had some good conversations on issues that we disagree on, but like I think that we at least gained a better understanding of where each other was coming from on that shit. And I even think that there was some kind of compromise on certain parts of that shit that we were able to come to, which I thought was really cool. And I think there needs to be more of that. Like why are we fighting so hard just to dig our heels in instead of trying to find common ground? That's something that's always puzzled me. So
and like we haven't gotten this far as a country because one of the parties is right. We haven't gotten this far as a country because one of the parties has all the right answers. Typically there's right answers on both sides of the parties. I really do think that we both parties want the same thing. They just see different roads to get there. And they want the same thing. They just see different roads to get there, and it's just at that point in time you're arguing about which one's the better road. And some people are very convinced that their road is the correct road, and it may very well be the correct road, but to be able to listen, to be able to understand the other person, understand where they're coming from, is also an important part of being able to like convince them that like this might be a better option, because they're going to take you more sincerely when you listen, you take in their points, and you're not just like as they're talking, you're just thinking of the next point you're going to say.
True. 100% hit the nail on the head, and I 100% agree with that. That's actually, I think, why we've kind of like befriended one another, because we realize that we're both coming from a place of like good faith and, genuineness, if you will, and that's a good thing. Like you can have that, like that can happen. You don't have to be politically aligned to like be able to talk to somebody and have a reasonable conversation with them. And you can also want the same thing, which is a betterment of our country and to see things get better for our citizens. I think we both share in that, and it's admirable that people can come together like that, because there's so many people that are ready to rip each other's heads off over little things, and it's like enough, enough.
Right. Yeah, and it's sad to see the way this country's going, just so much more divisive. So much more divisive. It's not as divisive as it's ever been. I've heard people say that before. I'm like, did you forget the fact that we went through the Civil War, or are you experiencing early onset dementia?
Right.
So like,
we're not quite Civil War yet. Like I think we got some time before we jump down that fucking hole. I seriously hope so.
but like we're not as divisive as we've ever been. We are at a divisive time right now. And it's just gonna be I think it's just gonna be a matter of time. There's been divisive times in America. There's been many of them. And we always pull through the other side. We always realize that we're Americans. And that's who we are. And I think we need a reminder of that somehow. I'm not saying like I want like a tragedy to happen like 9/11, but I want us to be able to realize that we are Americans, and that we're all fighting for each other on our left and right, and we all want to do better. Whether or not we think that doing better is doing this or doing that, we all want to do better. Because I've realized that like people on the left don't really no one's really like pro abortion, right? So like no one's really like, yeah, I want everyone to get an abortion.
Yeah.
And like like I don't think anyone really wants like the fetus to die. I don't think anyone really wants like that even in their minds potential of life to die. They don't want the potential of life to go away in their minds. In my mind it's already a life, but in a lot of people's minds it's the potential of life. And they don't want that to just be snuffed out. But they see a different side. They see like, well, if we make it to where it doesn't get snuffed out, if we make it to where it doesn't get snuffed out, then there's gonna be harm done over here. Whereas a lot of people are like, at all costs, like I completely disagree with what Texas and Ohio are doing, but like their mindset is probably like at all costs we have to save these lives. Like these lives are being taken and from lives that have no voices, and so we need to save these human lives, and that's where they're coming from. And I think it's genuine that they're coming from in that way, but I also think they're extremely misunderstood on like not allowing abortions within the cases of rape or within the cases of incest, or mother's health even, is that the fact like you're going to cause a lot more damage, even if it is like a rape case. The mental damage the mother would have to go through is absolutely insane. And there would be so much mental trauma that you'd be causing, and there's a lot of damage on that side. But both sides, like in that example, both sides are trying to look out for the betterment of life. Like they're trying to look out for the betterment of life, and they just see it from two very different circumstances.
I agree. 100. Well, where can people find you, Sprout?
You can find me at twitch.tv/TheSprouticus and twitter.com/TheSprouticus.
And do you have any debates or anything coming up in the near future?
Not this weekend. Actually, I don't know when the next debate's gonna be. But I'll be streaming on Monday for sure. I won't be streaming tomorrow because that's my wife's birthday. But for next Monday for sure I'll be streaming. And even if it's just React content or talking to somebody else, then that's what it's gonna be. But yeah, nothing really set in stone yet.
Rock and roll. Well, hey, I was glad to have you on a StonerCast Bites finally. I know we've talked a couple of times and had one-on-ones, but it was good to get you on here and just be able to have general overall chit-chat, ask you some questions, get some answers, relate some anecdotes myself. And as always, Sprout, I'm always happy to have you on, and I'm looking forward to working on Man Up with you.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Jason. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Take care, buddy.
You too.